Minutes for the end. My name is Kurt Quiggle. I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing here at Implementation Specialists. And there's a silly picture of me, so you know what my ugly mug looks like. Today's shirt is a Hawaiian shirt, but it's blue. Blue is one of my favorite colors, which makes working here with our color scheme easy for me to adopt to. We don't have crazy green or orange or things like that I just wouldn't care for. Our topic today is going to be Professional Service Tools Library. And you know, I kind of thought about this a little bit, and it seems like an old topic, yet just recently I worked with a customer and found that you know, they didn't know it existed. So it just kind of came to mind when we were thinking of webinar topics. And I think that whole idea of the parts of GP that we own, we have spent money on, you know, Microsoft and the Great Plains folks have spent time developing, and yet it's not being fully utilized. So I may not capture the full history of pistols, as we choose to call them, Professional Service Tools Library. But years ago, you know, as we worked with clients, there were certain tasks that needed to be accomplished. You know, I created all my customer IDs and I don't like them. I want to change them all, but I don't want to take them all out of the system and put in new ones, right? And we'd go to professional services at Microsoft and they would help us get those kind of tasks accomplished. And, you know, back as some of the other competitors were coming to market with some fancy tools to make their ERP system, you know, look sexy and shiny, you know, Microsoft followed suit, and back in 2012, they made some of these tools available free to customers through partners, through us. And that's continued to evolve, and the tool line is still available to customers. It's actually on the install media for GP now. We don't have to go download it separately and things like that. And they've even taken some of the items that used to be really fun to show off in the service tool library, and they've moved them into core product. So clearly the need was there, and it's being met by the software, right? So the idea of, can I make things easier, tools, and that's kind of one of the things we like to focus on here is, again, that the tool mentality, the ability to accomplish tasks, make it easier for our users. So that's our topic. And I'm going to just roll into one thing real quick, and then we're going to actually just look at product. You're here to see what we can do with something in your system, and right out of the gate, we want to get going on that. So first thing I'm going to point out is when we're in product, if you've been around anyone in this organization, you've been told to hit your F1 key anytime you're in a window to get additional help about that topic. And this is one of those cases where, you know what, if you click the help button in this window, you're not going to get much. However, there is a fabulous document online from Microsoft that clearly outlines everything that we can do with this tool and all of the caveats around using such a tool. And the link that's on this deck that Chad will help make available after all of this would take you to this particular site. And again, talks about, you know, I basically stole it right from the website. And we go right into how do we use this tool. So generally speaking, there's a few items within the tool that are quite impactful. We can make some pretty significant changes within the data. And as such, we need to be cautious, right? We want to make sure that we take a backup before we utilize something that's going to change a great big amount of data. It also will, in certain areas, require us to be the only user in the system when we're doing some of these, I'm going to call them tasks from that perspective. And some of it requires us to be SA, System Administrator. Okay? And again, this is a fabulous document. It literally walks us through using the tool step by step, what the different buttons mean in certain windows, and it takes us into compatibility. So anytime we talk about something that's out of the box from Microsoft relating to our GP environment, we always have to throw a little bit of a caution flag, where if we have a third-party product in play, we need to be cautious. This tool may not impact fields or database objects related to that third party as we would want it to. Okay, so Microsoft has a call out on where this is supported, meaning where will it work and what to expect. If you ever have questions on that, we're a great resource. Hey, I want to change account numbers everywhere in the system, and what's going to be the impact? And we can coach and say, it's going to work, don't worry about it. Or we can say, you know what, if you've got this particular product, we're gonna slow you down a little bit. You might need our help to make sure that that change happens everywhere you expect it to happen. Okay, and I won't call out any specific third parties because I don't want to give anybody a bad name. The tool was written for Microsoft. It wasn't written for any of the third parties specifically. Okay, so again, really detailed document, takes us through how to install it, and that's where I'm going to say, typically our installers, Terry, Jeremy, Tim, etc., if they've been on your environment, you most likely have it already installed. It's just one of those tasks that we tend to do when we're doing an install in your environment. So that being said, most likely you have it and it's in play. If you don't have it and it is not in play, it is not hard for us to put it in play for you or with you, okay? So, and again, there's no software expense. If you own GP, you own the tools library, okay? So all of that said, go back to my happy slide deck and see where we're at. I think I want to go into some product at this point. So I'm going to bring GP into site. And Chad, you're my eyes in the field. I want to make sure we're seeing the Dynamics GP environment.
Yes, sir, we are.
Awesome, awesome. So on our main navigation pane after install, we have a link to the Service Tools library. There is a task associated with getting that visible in certain versions, and in later versions it does appear. And when I open it the very first time, I do want to, mine just popped right open, right? Oh, it's just a window in GP. The first time you ever open it, a little process is going to run, and I can replicate that. If I click this button, this little progress bar is going to pop up the first time you log in, and it's going to chug through and do a bunch of things. The interesting piece is it claws through pretty fast, and it gets to the end here, and it just sits there. Don't freak out. It'll finish. Just let it do its thing. It's running a grant process against the databases, and it does take a little bit of time. No harm, no foul. If this is running, it's not causing any problems. And again, we're in as SA, so we have the ability to impact the behind the scenes information in the database. So there it is. There's the Professional Services Tools library. And, you know, probably can't cover every one of these in detail, but there's a couple of them that I just definitely want to point out on what they are, what they do, and you know what to look for here. So typically, and I say this with a grin on my face, our users go home at night and they leave GP logged in. When they walk in the morning, what's the first thing they see? Do you want to change your system date to today's date? And I'm sure we've all seen it. And even though IT and everybody tells us to log out at the end of the day, I'm guilty as charged. I've seen that message many times. We can make that message go away. we mark that checkbox in Professional Service Tools library and click next and close out of the application, it will automatically roll the system date forward for our users at midnight. Okay, so again, think of it as an additional feature we're turning on in the system. Just kind of an interesting little thing, okay? Another one that, I wish was in system, automatically installed everywhere I work, Doc Date Verify. Doc Date Verify, if you've been around GP long enough, you've probably realized that you can post a transaction into the future even if the period is not set up. And it's like, what in the heck? How could they ever do that? Why did they do that? I don't know. But we can prevent that from happening using Doc Date Verify. Utilizing Doc Date Verify, it looks forward and says, hey, is this period set up? Is it open? Is it closed? Can I post to it? And that keeps us from posting that transaction into 2027 instead of 2022. Well, that's not a good example. 2023 instead of 2022 because somebody hit the wrong key on their keyboard. So again, some interesting, I'm going to call that a feature, right? The ability to set a checkbox, make sure going forward that our document dates adhere to our fiscal calendar, okay? Here's another little turn on item that's quite beneficial. The SOP customer item lookup. When we turn that on, and I didn't need to mark the radio button, just turning it on is all we need to do, close the window and it's on. It adds an additional button on our sales document entry window to see customers' history. What other items did they buy in the past? What price did they utilize? It's kind of an interesting feature in order to look back and see what Kurt bought the last time he bought from me. So if I'm on the phone with a client and they say, just send me the same stuff you sent me last time, I can actually do that. I can get to that and find that information. Some other just light them up sort of items. Maybe I shouldn't call it light them ups, but minimum check. So in the payables module, if I want to set a value that I'm not going to send a check for less than $5. If I turn that on, I light up an additional field on the payables window to allow me to set that value. And it would control that payables processing run, again, to keep me from sending out 35-cent checks if I owe somebody 35 cents, et cetera, if I'm running large batches. Okay, so those are some of the, set it and forget it. There's reasons to use this one, the update user date, Doc Date Verify, always a good one to turn on. The sales order processing customer item lookup, easy one to turn on, immediate value from that perspective. And then we start talking about where the product, the tool has more data impact. And the idea of creating a new company. We've acquired a company, we want to utilize it within GP. If you're savvy, you go into utilities, you create a new company, and now you've got an empty shell. And with that empty shell, we can actually copy information from another company utilizing this tool. And when we roll into that process, we pick our source company. In my case, Fabricam is called 2. And my destination company, because I am very unoriginal, is called 3. So forgive me for that. And it allows us to then choose to copy information between Fabricam and my new company. Things like company setup information, financial information, payables. And again, there's good documentation to tell you what records will come forward if we mark them all, etc. And when I click process, of course, it's going to send you a really scary message. And to this day, this message still gives me a little, you know, a little chill, because it says it's going to remove all the data in the destination company. It's warning you in advance that this is very impactful. So if you did have valid information in the 3 in the destination company, this process is going to wipe it out. Okay. But that said, it also is a great process in the way of it'll move my chart of accounts, it'll move my vendor master, it'll move my customer master, employees. There's a lot of base setup information that just been copied into my other company. From there, we can make slight modifications and utilize it from there. But I talked about that customer vendor information being similar or the same between 2 companies. Okay, and there is a way to make that happen between multiple companies in your organization. So on the customer side, if I turn on the RM master trigger, that functionality allows us to, when I create a customer in database 2 or Fabricam, it will automatically create the same customer and address record in database 3. What that looks like is merely setting it up to say, when I create a master record in the database 2, also create it in database 3, and I want my GL accounts to replicate, I want my vendors to replicate, and my customers, or maybe just vendors. So those are our options around that. At that point, if I go create a vendor in that company, it'll automatically create one in the other. Kind of an interesting process there. Looking to see if anybody raised their hand. Let's go on to some items, of course, that have some other value as well. We talked about that copy company. I want to talk about account modifier and combiner. And this is where maybe I've got a chart of accounts out there. I don't necessarily like the way the segment was utilized, and I want to completely change its number. As you have, if you've been around GP and you've been in, you know, our cards for an account, that field's dimmed out. I can't change that number. It's locked. It's my primary index or primary field for this record. So I'm not allowed to change it. But with pistols, with professional service tools, I can actually modify that account number to be a different account number. And what it's going to do is change it everywhere, right? So by everywhere, I mean from the first time that account number was ever used to today in a work table where I've just keyed a journal entry, it's going to change that account number. It's going to change it in the sales module. It's going to change it in the payables module. It's going to change it in GL. So if I want 100-1000 to become 200-2000, this tool will allow me to do that. Okay. When we first look at it, it looks like, oh, geez, I got to do one at a time. We can actually do it with a source document, a whole list of your old account numbers to be your new account numbers. Now, here we go. So why does Microsoft suggest that we take a backup when we do some of these tasks? As you can imagine, if I were to run this and change all of my account number structure, I might want to back up in case I don't like the outcome or in case I question the outcome when I'm done. So again, very powerful tools. You need to have some respect for what's ultimately going to happen when we run them. But just did a project with a client beginning of July. We added a segment and did a project where we brought in that whole list of old to new, and we completely restructured their chart of accounts. History is still intact. Everything continued to work as planned, right? So I can still see my old distributions, et cetera, with that new account number in play. So a little blurb on pretty powerful tool there. And let's talk about another one. Customer name modifier, similar tool, pick a customer and give it a new name, and where the value comes in here, because again, if we look at that customer card, name field is editable. However, there are places when we save a sales record where the name associated at the time that it happened is embedded in that history table. And the name modifier would allow us to change it across all of the everywhere it's stored from that perspective. And again, I don't intend to try to cover them all, but when we look at the idea of a combined functionality, jumping around a little bit, that would take two records and combine them into one. So I have a North Territory and a South Territory, and I want them all to become the USA. It would just turn them all into the USA. It would merge them together. All those records become under the new. And again, that availability is there for the finance account modifier combiner as well. You know, maybe we had two purchasing accounts and we really only needed one, or something along those lines. That is available to us to merge those together, and we don't have to continually add them together on our reports. So again, a bit of a taste for a tool that a lot of people have. And again, as I said, some of the tools, this used to be a full window, and some of those tools have actually come to play within your core product. And again, talking along the same lines of a combine modify scenario, the ability to combine two customers together. Great feature functionality within GP, definitely has a lot of value. Be cautious if you have third parties. You may need to chat with Cheryl and our team to make sure that it's going to change it everywhere you want it to change. Again, these are only supported in core product. With that, I want to pause for 2 seconds here and see if we have any questions.
Yeah, great timing, Kurt, because we just, as of just a few seconds ago, got a question. Jacqueline is wondering, are you saying that change customer name through cards changes it from that moment in time, and pistol customer name modifier changes it throughout the entire history?
Jacqueline's hired. Correct. Correct. She stated that functionality perfectly. Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Jacqueline. If anybody else has any other questions, please let us know.
And I want to make sure, as I am here, I got to get one little blurb in there. We also write tools in the schema of making life easier. Be sure to check our website. There's tool sets that we've built to add this similar type of functionality into the environment. I'm not going to do much more than just suggest you check the website and look there for any tools. And I also want, as we have time left, to be sure to invite everyone to our event in November, GPUC 2022 in fabulous Fargo, North Dakota. It's an opportunity for our customers to come together with, the consulting team here. We go into deep dives on topics such as this, professional service tools, our tools, out of the box functionality, and take that time to educate you in how to get more out of your investment within GP. GP is going to be around for a while yet. Let's make sure we utilize it every way, shape we can. And that's what I've got for today. again, I'd take more questions if anyone has one. Oh, so quiet.
No other questions at this time.
Okay. All right. Well, I hope we can see everyone at the Fargo campus in November and be able to pass on additional knowledge that we've gained over the years as a team. And look forward to our next opportunity to educate. And with that, I'll hand it back to you, Chad.
All right, thank you so much, Kurt. Appreciate it. Once again, thanks everybody for joining us today. Just a couple of quick housekeeping items once again for those of you that may have missed at the beginning. We did record today's session, so that'll be available to everybody who registered tomorrow. And also, as you're heading out here, there are 2 handouts available within the control panel, 2 PDFs that are available for you to download to your browser if you are interested. And that includes a slide deck as well as the little bit of information, a fact sheet on the location modifier that Kurt referenced during today's webinar. So with that being said, if you have any other questions or if anyone still has any questions, please submit those and I can get those answered to you even after the webinar. So please feel free to continue sending those in here. I'll hang around for a couple minutes. Otherwise, thanks again, everybody. Appreciate your time today. Please reach out to us. www.iscorp.biz if you need to get to our website. And once again, be on the lookout. We also have every Wednesday, we have upcoming webinars every Wednesday, so be on the lookout for those webinar invites. Those will be going out here tomorrow for our next week's webinars, so be on the lookout for those as well. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Kurt. Have a good rest of your Wednesday and enjoy the rest of your week, everyone. Take care.